You know, there is a big push to grow our population here in the state, but a new poll out gives us an idea of the challenges we face, especially with younger people. The Detroit Regional Chamber teamed up with business leaders for Michigan, and they're the biggest influencers when it comes to business investment in the state. So here are some of the overall stats from this poll that came out. 64% of residents ages 18 to 24 say they saw themselves living in Michigan a decade from now, but 26% did not and 9% were unsure. Richard Zuba is the president of the Glenn Gariff Group. He did the poll. He's with me now to take a look at the results. Richard, it's good to see you. And really, this is the first of its kind poll looking at younger people and asking them what they really want to see.
Yeah, I don't recall this coming out in Michigan before, anything similar to it. So, I think it's a first real shot at what do young people in Michigan really think and what are they looking for?
All right, so why don't you go ahead and tell me what surprised you the most about some of this data?
Well, I think if we look at this, there are three different buckets that they're telling us we need to pay attention to in Michigan. One of them, and I don't think it's a surprise, is the job opportunities. What are their job opportunities? What's their pay? The second, they're saying get the basics right. They say, we asked on a whole range of issues what was important, and the things that rose to the top were the cost of rent or housing, low levels of crime, and they said make sure the roads are fixed. And that doesn't seem too different from what everybody in Michigan is saying. But the third thing was quality of life issues. And who you talked to really depended what they said, particularly with college-educated voters. Those quality of life issues were very much about walkable, livable cities and social issues. We've heard so much about them over the last couple of years, but they really matter to those seeking college educations or those who have college educations.
Richard, speaking of college educations, one of the things that stood out to me of the 26% that said that they were leaving, it was college-educated students are more likely to leave than those with a high school education, which doesn't bode very well for building that tax base here in Michigan. And we're trying to retain those college-educated young people so that they can fill these jobs that we want the businesses to bring here.
Right. I think one of the things we have to remember is, all of these job vacancies in Michigan, so many of them require college level educations. This is where the future is in Michigan. And this is, these are the jobs that are going to need to get filled. If we're losing those people, those job opportunities go elsewhere. We really need to pay attention to what these individuals need to stay in Michigan. And they're very different from those who don't have a college education. One of the things we did in this survey is we said, okay, you get the same opportunity, job opportunity. Would you take it in Michigan or Texas, Michigan or California, Michigan or Chicago? And one of the things we find was Chicago was the most attractive of those three to college educated because they were looking for big city life and they were looking for guarantees on social issues. So, those are two things we really need to pay attention to when we talk about keeping and retaining college-educated young people.
I thought it was also interesting, Richard, then people actually chose to be in Michigan over California.
Oh, by wide margins. And that shouldn't surprise us. One of the things we find is Michiganders. One of Michigan's greatest benefits with Michiganders is if you leave, you lose the Great Lakes. And I think we underestimate just how important that is to people. And it certainly shows up in this research. We asked people, for example, what is the Michigan's greatest advantage? And it was in an open-ended question. And it wasn't even close. They said the outdoors and the Great Lakes are Michigan's greatest advantage. So if you're a native Michigander, who is less likely to leave Michigan, by the way, if you are a native Michigander, being reminded that if you leave, you lose the Great Lakes way of life is powerful. It really matters, as does losing your friends and family. That is also a powerful lure for Michiganders.
Yeah, it was funny. I did see that, in terms of when you looked at low crime rates and then protecting individuals' rights on issues of race and LGBTQ rights and abortion, tied with that was being close to other family members.
We underestimate the importance of what I call the pipeline factor. And that is, what's keeping you here in Michigan or what brings you to Michigan? And, just in terms of keeping you here, family and friends really matters. But the converse of that is, when you look at those college graduates that said they were interested in going to Chicago, the number two reason was because they had friends and family in Chicago. And I think we underestimate the value of these pipelines, both coming to Michigan and leaving Michigan. Michigan's population loss of young people didn't start 4 or 5 years ago. It's been going on for decades. And it's been going on specifically to Chicago for decades. And, once you start that pipeline, people follow, friends follow, family follows. And the same bodes true for coming into Michigan. And we've seen this in Michigan's immigrant populations, where we've been so successful in the past. Once you start a pipeline coming into Michigan, friends and family follow that pipeline. And so we need to pay attention to that.
Absolutely. It's really interesting to see these numbers, and so glad that this polling was done. Richard Zuba, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for joining me and giving us a little bit more perspective on this. And I know I'm going to be talking to you soon as we head into politics season.
Great to see you.